o'clock. I'm sure there's going to be other people streaming in. My name is Darlene Swaffer, and I want to welcome you to the Road to Liberty Conference. It is time for us to stand up and take our God-given freedoms back from a tyrannical system that continues to try to steal them away from us. This is where you're going to have a voice. This is where you're going to be brave again. This is where you're going to be inspired. And that is our goal today. We're going to do some really quick housekeeping rules. There are restrooms at either side of the signature grant. I'm going to ask everyone at this time to silence your phone so that there are no interruptions. I will also ask for everyone to keep sidebar conversations to a minimum or none at all, so that way guests that are sitting right next to you can enjoy this experience that they paid for. All of the speakers have a table in the back. There are 2 15-minute breaks, and you're up to them and look at some of the items that they're selling and purchase it at that time or at the end of the event. And I hope I didn't leave anything out, but we're going to get started with the program agenda. The first item on the agenda is our invocation, and I'd love to have Jacqueline Trombino come up and do an amazing, as she come right on up, Jacqueline. Is Jacqueline Bank Trombino?
Everyone, in the name of the Father, amen. Father, we praise you with this event today and your purpose for it. We know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. We love you for that. Our prayer today is that your will be done through this event. Take what we have prepared and multiply your efforts as only you can. Steer our intentions to align with your righteousness, that your faithful provision, when our efforts fail us or fall short, may all glory go up to you. You, when we reach the finish line and climb over our benchmarks, blanket us with your peace today. Keep us physically safe and guard our hearts and minds from people and selfishness. Keep love at the forefront of our minds today and the guiding light for all that we set out to accomplish. The other prayer I have is that we really do need some peace in our country. And in order to do that, I sought the guidance of St. Francis of Assisi. A prayer for channeling God's peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me show love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness. Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, not so much to be understood as to understand, not so much to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And God bless America.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was beautiful. I'm so excited that she's with us here today. Next item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. And before we start the Pledge of Allegiance, who is a veteran in our attendance today. So if you are a veteran, can you please stand up so that we can honor you? And our Pledge of Allegiance. He is a candidate for veteran. He once served as the mayor and was the only veteran elected official at the time in Miami. So we are very honored to have him join us today and do our Pledge of Allegiance. Come right up.
Please face our flag and repeat after me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
And Sarah is going to be doing the national anthem. I don't know, did she leave? Sarah?
Here she goes.
Okay, so guess what? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, those bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free and the home of the brave. Make things happen. Right, so Julia Valle actually was going to do the invocation, but she had car trouble and she's not going to make it on time. She will be with us as soon as she can get here. So we're going to start the program with Jennifer Pippen for Moms for Liberty, and she's going to give an amazing presentation on her organization.
Good morning. Can everybody see me? Okay. I'm not gonna lie, I am on my tippy toes right now. My name is Jennifer Pippen, and I am the chairman for Moms for Liberty of Indian River, Florida. Our two co-founders, thank you. Our two co-founders are Tina Dekovich in Brevard County and Tiffany Justice in Indian River County. And they are actually on a national TV show today. So I was so blessed to be able to have Darlene have me come and speak. So I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate everybody coming and fighting up for our liberty. So for Moms for Liberty, again, by the two former school board members who said, enough is enough, we're going to start from the ground level up, we're going to grassroots, way. And they started January 1, and we are now up to 126 chapters. We're in 30 states. We have 50,000 members, and initially they only wanted to start in Florida, and that would have just been the outreach of mothers, fathers, grandparents, community members, they decided to take it across the United States. So it has grown rapidly. We've experienced a lot of growing pains, but we fight for parental rights and children. There is nothing more important than children, our children. Now, I can't stand on my toes that far. We are the only voice for the children. And even if you are not a parent, if you are not a grandparent, they are our future. They're going to be our future leaders. So even if, children are in your future, grandchildren are in your future, when we're old and gray and we are in the gold, to be the ones that are going to be leading us. So that is why this is so important. And Moms for Liberty, again, we're a grassroots group. We're all volunteers. We're not paid lobbyists. I'm here on my own dime because I believe in Moms for Liberty. I do. And we are in partnership with so many other organizations that are, fighting for the voter integrity, fighting for everything that has gone wrong recently and years past. I invite you to check out our website. Our website is www. And what you can do when you click on there, you click on your specific county, and it will bring you to the information for the Moms for Liberty chapter, which is every county. We're hoping to have a Moms for Liberty in every county in the country. We're working towards that. To get the information to join your chapter chair, which we're going to school board meetings. We're standing up in the meetings. We're standing up to the DEO, the DOH, all of these places that are slowly taking away our parental rights. Governor DeSantis, give him a hand. I mean, he has been our champion. He has written an executive order to stop mask mandates for our children. It's been a slippery slope, and they're trying to do all these things with case law and whatnot. So we have to continue to fight this because there are 11 counties in our state right now that are not following our governor's order. And they're saying that they're looking at the state constitution and what about the parents who, want to have masks on their kids, which is absolutely fine. If you want to mask your child, vaccinate your child, that is absolutely your parental rights. What we're fighting for with Moms for Liberty is that option to choose and to do the right thing for our children. Exactly the same. There's no blanket approach. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 15 years in the operating room. And between working full-time, and I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, it took March of 2020 for me to say, you know what? I am too busy, but I have to make time for my children and other children. And everybody here can help with that. So with Moms for Liberty, again, you don't have to show up to the school board meetings. If you could just get with your local county and email, call your local officials, the state officials. When Moms for Liberty puts something out and says, hey, Governor DeSantis is under attack, can you please send an email and support him? How long does that take? A minute of your time? When Richard Corcoran with the Department of Education says, hey, back with this, we need help. Take that minute to make that phone call or that email. And again, you don't have to have children. You could just be a concerned community member or let somebody know, because that person may tell somebody who does show up for the school board meeting or that does run as an elected official to help save our children.
Bluetooth, parent.
And I also wanted to mention something about the Hope Scholarship. For anybody who does have children or grandchildren, the Hope Scholarship is through the state. And if your children are currently attending public school and you want to get them out of public school and send them to private school or homeschool or charter school, the state is giving funds for you to be able to buy those new laptops or a program, or for your child to get out of the public school system if that is something that they're having trouble with the masking mandate, or in the future, the vaccine mandate. We're trying to stay ahead of this, but with the way that things have been going, it may be best to take your child out of public education. Again, we are all volunteers in Moms for Liberty, even the higher up corporations. We're just here because we're moms, we're dads, we're grandparents, and we want to change this for our children. So the Parental Rights Law was championed by Erin Grawl out of Indian River County, and she put in the simplest form our parental rights in one law because they were a little bit of everywhere and scattered. The Parental Rights Law says we have the fundamental right to care for our children and the education of our children. So this way, we make their medical decisions, okay? We make their educational decisions. So when there is sex ed, or if they're talking about LGBTQ things, we have the right to say, you know what? We want to discuss that with our children, not the public school system.
Right.
We want to take our children to get vaccinated by our family physician and not the LPN or the CNA that's in the schools doing vaccinations. She put this parental rights law in the hands of the parents. So please, if we can get a round of applause for Erin Grawl. So again, I appreciate everybody's time. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'm in the back there. Again, we are a national organization. We were only planning to be the 67 counties, hopefully, in Florida. But because California reached out and said, listen, they're doing this with our students. New York stepped out and said, hey, we need help. What can we do to help our children? We have teachers. We have so many people that are involved with this organization. And we can use your help. And again, if you don't have the time and if you can help us 1 minute a week with an email or a call, do it for the children because we're their only voice. Thank you.
We're going to take just a quick 5-minute break, potty break, or whatever you need to do, because there's some technical issues that we're going to walk. Okay, and if there was a phone that went off, so if everybody can take a look and see where that missing phone was, those kind of things throw off the speaker. So I'd appreciate if everybody could find out where that missing phone is and have it silenced. Thank you. We're going to take 5.
So we'll be watching it by minute until the program that somebody does. It's not recording, so then regular. So we'll be watching that from our conference.
So now we have a short break. I'm gonna mute right now because nobody's talking here.
I want to do a proper introduction for Jennifer Pippen. We had so many technical issues coming in today, and we were able to finally work through it all, and I think that's God's miracles working. We had so many challenges even to put this event together, but hopefully from this point forward it's going to go flawless. We didn't have the intro music for Jennifer, and I apologize for that. And I also have a bio for Jennifer. I'd like to read it now just to give her some credit. Jennifer Pippen is a Florida native. She's an operating room nurse of almost 15 years, wife and mother of 2 school-aged children. Jennifer is a chairman for Moms for Liberty of Indian River, Florida. And this organization was formed by 2 former school board members to restore liberty in our schools over the entire country. She's passionate about America and dedicated to protecting liberty and freedoms for the future of her children and our families across the country. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here. I invited her, and she's a powerhouse, and she's fighting for our children. She's a warrior. Okay. The next person I'd like to introduce is Sue Trombino. I'm really excited about Sue being here because when I met her a couple years ago, she inspired me with her mission to basically activate engagement in our communities. She went to a lot of different churches throughout the country. That's her RV outside. And she's basically commanded a call to action of our role in the electing of our candidates so that we have a voice in office to protect our Judeo-Christian values. This is an amazing speaker coming up right now. So let me tell you a little bit about Sue. She was born in Caracas, Venezuela. Vast exposure to world culture from having been raised in Central and South America, Africa, and Europe. This diverse upbringing on America and fostered an appreciation for Judeo-Christian values upon which America was founded. Sue holds many things dear to her about America, one of which is armed services. This is a great source of pride for her and her family, as her mother, father, and brother served with honor. Her dreams, passion, and love of America and love for the Lord are the driving forces of what's inside of her. So, Sue, I'd love to invite you up here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for, oh, sorry.
Here? Do I take it out? Can I walk around? Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all for inviting me, Darlene. I'd like everybody to give a round of applause to Darlene. It is not easy to put something like this together, and when you're doing something to try to thwart, but you've done an amazing job, and I just want to commend you for that. I just thank you for inviting me. I feel very humbled. Well, first of all, I am from Venezuela, so ¿hablan español aquí? Who speaks Spanish? Wow.
Claro que sí.
Claro que sí, mira. Le digo a la gente que tiene que tener cuidado lo que están diciendo, porque nunca sabes quién está escuchando. So what I said was, you better be very careful what you're saying, because you never know who's listening, because I don't look any more Spanish than the man in the moon. Spain, and people don't realize that northern Spaniards and northern Italians are blonde and blue-eyed. So that's where I get my color. So be very careful. Okay. So all I'm going to do is you're going to tell me how much time I have, right? Okay. So I'm going to tell you very, very quickly a little bit about my background and then what we're doing and how this room is going to change Florida. But I wasn't born here. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. I have had the privilege of living pretty much all over the world. Central, South America. I've lived in Africa, been to the
in Sudan, in the Arab world. And I can tell you one thing, is that we live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. We are not perfect, but we are exceptional. And I take exception to anybody that says otherwise. Just very briefly, in 2005, when I came here to the States, the Lord put on my heart to go to a Reclaiming America, and that was with D. James Kennedy. And I was privileged to meet a lot of godly patriots. And from Matt Staver, if you don't know who he is, you want to know him. He is one of the top constitutional attorneys in this country. But David Barton, and I could go on with the list. And I realized right then, as I started learning about the history of America, that in 1962 and 63 is when they took out prayer and Bible out of the school. And one woman did that. Now, the caveat is that it was also the pastors in this country. They started before that, but it came to fruition in 1962 and 63, and the pastors were telling their congregation not to get involved in politics. Now, there's nothing wrong with politics, but in Latin, you know what politics is, right? Poly means many, and ticks is bloodsuckers. That's what it is. So at this point in our juncture in our country, it kind of seems like that, doesn't it? But we have to have fun with this because it's very serious out there. But if you have fun with this, then you're going to be able to bring people to your side. But there's nothing wrong with the word politics, but I do believe that words matter. And unfortunately, when you say politics, people get all bent out of shape, especially in the Christian community. And let me go back real quick. I just want to let you know that I'm an out of the closet, card-carrying, I'm a conservative, and then 3, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican in that order. So anyway, so that now going back is that with this, like I said, words matter. And so I use civic duty because it is impossible. You know, everybody has a worldview. It's either biblical or pagan. The problem is the Christian is compartmentalized. So I like to use the word civic duty because I go around and my sons, when my son used to play baseball, I do surveys everywhere I go. And I don't mean it but you know what, you got Moms with Liberty, you have so many moms out there, we're mama bears, but I'm just a mom and a wife. But I realized that if I didn't stand up to do something, because my legacy is my, and my father left much is required. And you know, you all are going to, you're privileged today to come, and I want to commend you for coming. This is Saturday, you could have come, spent your money going anywhere, but you came here. And you're going to hear an amazing amount of, just amazing. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a little bit on overload. But it's awesome that you're going to, you get all this information. The caveat is, and the key is what are you going to do with the information that you get? Because it's awesome to come here and sit here until 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I'm not sure what time, but it doesn't matter. Number 1, you're here. Number 2, you're going to listen and you're going to learn. But what you do with what you learn, walking out that door, is going to be, really done. And that's going to be between you and God, really, the person sitting in your seat. You're going to have to decide, what am I really willing to do? It's nice to come and listen to people, to talk, but the bottom line is what are you going to do about it? Ignorance is the most expensive commodity that we have. We in America are in a bubble. I've said this since 2005. We're in a bubble. And we say, that's not going to happen here. This is America. But if you continue to become apathetic, disengaged, and disinterested, and you lose America, can I ask you, and I want you to think about this throughout the day, can I ask you, where do you... Everybody in the world wants to come here. You don't see people getting in a boat going to Cuba, or Caracas, Venezuela, or Africa, or Iran, or anything else. everybody wants to come here. But we have, I'm gonna say 14 months, but it's really 13 and a half months. That's it. I'm probably the most optimistic person on the face of the planet because I believe that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. But if you don't do anything, faith without action is dead. You can get on your knees and prayer is the bottom line. That's it. But then there's sometimes you gotta get off your knees and you gotta start walking. You gotta walk in that. And yes, it is very fearful today. There's a lot of stuff here, but I believe it. God says 365 times, he says, do not fear. Why is 365 times? Well, there's one for each day of the year. You're either, if you are a true Christian, and I'm just gonna speak it because I may never pass this way again. So I'm just gonna, you know what, if I offend you, I apologize, but you know what, Jesus offended. And the truth offends. So I'm going to speak truth, I'm going to do it in love, but if I church, we have the spirit of offense. Yeah. And that is what's dividing this country within the church. Enough is enough. I always tell people, I said, put your big boy and big girl panties on and let's get going. Okay, don't have pride. We're supposed to be kingdom builders, not castle builders. There's a lot of groups in here. Find something that is important to you. Find what floats your boat and go with that. And then everybody else doesn't get offended because you're going over to see Bill Federer or Pastor Locke or Massey or Kathy or Moms for Living, whatever, all these groups here. Find what floats your boat. And that's what brings me to win. Women impacting the nation. When we show up, we win. W-I-N. We haven't shown up. But when we show up, we win. Now, on our card back there, I've got Tanya back there. She'll give you our cards. And on the back of our card, it says 1256-1. And you're going to look at that and go, what the heck is that? That means there was only 12 disciples, there was only 56 signers, and there was only one Savior. Amen. God was not a God of numbers. Gideon wanted 33,000, he got a whopping 300. One woman took out prayer and Bible out of the school. Texas, Iowa, and California became states by one vote. A madman was put into power by a chancellor, Hitler. One person can make a difference. And before you go on your tangent and saying, well, you know what, we tried to vote and no, it doesn't make a difference. Oh, yes, it does. You're going to keep going, you're going to get kicked in the teeth, but then you're going to keep moving on and keep occupying until he comes. The Lord says to be a good steward of what he's given you. We have been given the greatest country on the face of the planet. Like I said earlier, not perfect, but exceptional. His providential hand was on this country. And he says three things. Number one is you are to be a good steward. That doesn't just mean money. We have not been a good steward. That's why we're in the mess that we're in. And I'm going to blame the Christian. I'm sorry, but it's us. It is our fault that we're in the mess that we're in. If only a quarter of the Christians would vote God's biblical way, we would not be in this mess. That's a slice of pie. Think about that. We would win in a landslide every single time. So number one, occupy. Number two, or be a good steward. Then he says occupy. Occupy until he comes. We have too many churches that are fighting against when he's going to come. It's going to come in November of 2022 and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, no, he's coming in 2022 and it's going to be in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, I'm the blonde, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do believe, and Massey can tell me, and Pastor Locke and all the other pastors in here, I do believe he says, only the Father knows. So I don't know. Things that are man-made, right? So that's number two. And then he says, what about the 5 talents? What are you willing to do? You have to do something. So at WIN, we ask 3 questions. Number one, because the questions are very important. Number one is, why are you here today? Now, normally in a different group, I would go to each one of you and I'd say 15 seconds or less, why are you here today? Because until something becomes personal, you are not going to be engaged. Everybody, again, I said, is in a bubble. We're busy, we're taking care of our kids, we're working. The other side gets paid to go knock on doors and gets paid to stand on a street corner, make phone calls. We don't. Oh well, we're all busy. Being under Satan's yoke, we're all busy. What are you busy doing right now? If you're busy watching that boob tube, it's not Fox News in over 7 years. Because you have to have discernment and wisdom. Why are you going back to like a dog going back to its vomit? Watching something that's telling you the lie, and you keep watching it, and it sounds good. Anything that sounds good is a big red flag, no pun intended in here in Florida because of the red flag bill. Anything that sounds good is a red flag. But number one has to be personal, right? Why are you here? Second question is, what is important to you, to the person sitting in your seat? And I'm going to tell you a very quick story because this is the crux of when. Sitting in your seat, not to your spouse, your best friend, your neighbors, your kids, but what really is important to you. And I'll tell you a story in a second. And then the third question is, why do you believe the way you believe? Can you articulate why you're Christian, why you're Jewish, why you're Democrat, Republican, atheist? I don't care what you say. Can you articulate and tell you why? Do you know that Josh McDowell took 100 pastors and said, why are you a Christian and why are you a pastor? And half of them couldn't tell him. I'll guarantee you, you're going to go to your church and you think that everybody sitting next to you is thinking the same way you do. No, they're not. If they were, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Amen.
Do not assume that everybody's thinking the same way. Ask the questions. Jesus asked questions, and that's how you soften things. So, I don't know how much time I have left, but let me just get through this one story. In 2008, I think it was, we happened to have, it was Obama and it was McCain. Not that we had a big choice, but we had a choice. But I decided to invite every woman in my church, and we went to a pretty good-sized church at the time, to come to my house and talk about what's going on in our country. Now, we at WIN, we are a 501c3. We are, obviously, it's all done by donations, but we don't tell people how to vote and get you to think. That's all I want to do, is get you to think. I don't want to tell you how to vote, because if I do, I usurp commandment number 1. That means I know better than you. I don't want to do that. I want you to think, because in 2, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, I don't want to have to continually push a wet noodle. I want you to know what you believe and why you believe it, so that you can stand for the courage of your convictions. Do you know what the courage of your convictions are, and can you stand for them? I don't know. That's between you. I don't know. I know what mine are, but I pray every day that God continues to give me that courage. Okay? I want to be an Abraham and saying, we will return, when he's taken Isaac up to the mountain to be sacrificed. I want a we will return kind of moment. But, with all this stuff going on, I don't know that. I'm a mom. If a Muslim puts a gun to my son's head and says, you better deny Christ or I'm going to blow him away, am I going to have the courage to go, I'm sorry, honey, but I can't deny him? Do you know that just happened over in Afghanistan? There was a mom, and she had her little boy, she had her kids. And the kids turned to their mom and said, Mommy, we will not deny Jesus. Can you imagine that? And they shot the mom and they shot the kids. I want that type of courage. See, I don't get paid really. And so I've got 14 months. I've told my family knows that I'm all in. And I'm not kidding you. I'm looking you in the eye. You want something, you have my number. I promise you I will be there for you. Because to whom much is given, much is required. This is not a joke anymore. It's awesome. But this is the greatest country on the face of the planet. And we're about to lose it because we're apathetic. We're living the dream, and you're leaving a nightmare to your children and your grandchildren. Because we're too comfortable. And it's easy to be comfortable. Something I just wrote here, but when we're privileged, it's easy to be comfortable. And we are so privileged. We are so privileged. But I want you to think about what I'm about to say. Okay, so going back to the story. So I invited all these women, quite a few women at my church, whether I knew them or not. So again, we don't tell you how to vote or who to vote for. I just stir the pot. And I called the gal up, and she was the secretary of our pastor. And it was a pretty good-sized church, and I call her Lily. It's my Lily story. And I said, Lily, I'd like to invite you to a talk I'm going to give on Monday night. Would you like to come? She said, Sue, you do know I'm a Democrat. I ignore that. 80 87% of the people in this country have no idea why they're Republican or Democrat anyway. They are because their families or neighbors or spouses. So when they say that, just ignore that. Just talk to them, ask them questions. So when she said, Sue, you do know I'm a Democrat, I ignored that. I said, well, Lily, are you interested in what's going on in this country today? She goes, oh yes, I'm very interested in that, Sue. But this isn't going to be a Democrat bashing thing, is it? I was taken aback by that. I'm on the phone. And I said, Lily, how long have you known me? And she said, Sue, I've known you a long time. I trust you. I'm going to come. She came. I gave my 20-minute talk. And before she left, she said, Sue, I'm blown out of my mind by what I did not know that I did not know. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I always do a follow-up. I called the next day and I said, Lily, thank you so much for coming last night. I said, you could have stayed home watching Dancing with the Stars. Not that that's bad. But you came to get educated, just like you all came to get educated today. I applaud you for that. But anyway, so I said, well, Lily, when she said thank you for including me, she goes, Sue, but I just don't know who to vote for. Now, God really knocked me upside the head because I thought I did somewhat of a good job. And when you think you do a good job, God will really tell you no, you didn't. And so when she said, Sue, I don't know who to vote for, and I tried not to say, don't vote for the O. I couldn't do that. I was like, Lord, what am I going to say to her? And this is what he gave me. He said, ask the questions. So I said, Lily, what is important to you? Not to your spouse, your best friend, your neighbors, your kids. What is really important to you? And she says to me, abortion. She was pro-life. I said, Lord, thank you, Jesus. So I said to her, I said, Lily, doesn't the Lord say you will know them by their fruit? Yes. I said, anyway, so you know them by their fruit? I said, yes. I said, I tell you what, let's not listen to what either candidate is saying. Let's not even listen to what either party is saying. Let's go see how they voted. I said, now you're on your, I said, go get your computer. I'm going to get on my computer. We're on the phone. I said, go to the Arizona Senate. I'm going to walk you through some steps. Went through a couple steps. Well, ding, ding, ding. He voted for life. I said, now let's go over to the Illinois Senate. Went over to the Illinois Senate. Oops, red flag, red flag. Not only did Obama vote for partial birth abortion, but at the time he was one of two senators, state senators, he was one of two that voted that if that child should survive that partial birth abortion, that child should be murdered. Immediately out of her mouth, she says to me, oh my gosh, Sue, I would have voted for a man that believes in death. Now, 2 minutes ago, it was about the donkey. When you're talking to a Christian, it has nothing to do about the donkey or the elephant. It is all about the lamb. What does God say? And as a Christian, it's what does God say? Not what I feel, not what I think. What does God say? Now, right there, I said, thank you, Lord. What did I do? Iron sharpens iron. That's the horizontal, but I pointed her to the vertical, which makes the cross. Now, I just planted a seed. What she does with that for the rest of her life is not up to me. I'm just there to plant the seed. I'm not there to plant it, water it, fertilize it, cut it, prune it, whatever it is, but whatever God has me to do. But we must occupy. That is the key. That's what we do at WIN. We ask questions, and I give you a way to just to stand for your convictions without losing your witness. We have an incredible methodology, and I promise you it works all the time. This could be a room full of 100, 200 naysayers, and I will be able to stand for the courage of my convictions. Because I'm not worried, I'm worried about him. You know what? The Lord isn't going to say, well, that was well thought, Darlene, and that was well said, Carrie, and that was well said, Debbie, or thought well said, or thought. He's only going to say, well done. Or well-intentioned, really. He's only going to say, well done. So, it's really, number one is, we must stand. You get educated with truth and facts. You'll see that out on our bus. Our bus, we are doing a tour. We've been doing that for a couple of years. We've been all the way out to Colorado and back, and Massey and Carrie came with us, and they're the bomb. But we're doing a tour called Saving Our Republic, Ensuring Liberty. And that's what we're doing. We're stirring the pot and going to, it's all grassroots. We have what's called WIN Talks. WIN Talks are like book clubs, and you meet twice a month for an hour and 20 minutes, and you get educated with truth and facts. I work with Matt Staver, Liberty Council, Family Research Council, Florida Family Policy Council, you name the group, David Barton, they love what we do because we want you to get educated with, again, truth and facts, not emotion or conjecture. Not even our opinions, because we're all entitled to our opinion, we're just not entitled to our facts. So we want to be engaged with our civic duty, being biblically correct, not politically correct. And I do. Last year I sat with over 200 pastors last year, and I can tell you that half of the pastors I sat with shouldn't be behind that pulpit because they're PC, not BC. And unfortunately, but God is separating the wheat from the chaff, the sheep and the goat, and He's exposing. And it is okay. I used to tell my son since the time he was little, honey, if everybody's coming at you, you're going the right way. Guess what? You're going the right way. But we are free because of the sacrifice that we've had. The people that have gone before us. And we have got to stand. Today, I hope that you don't sleep tonight. I'm going to pray that. A pastor said that I work with FRC. I hope you don't sleep tonight. Because this is serious. Please, please do not walk out of here and go, that was an awesome talk. I heard Kathy and I heard all these speakers and they were phenomenal. And look what Darlene did. Okay, oh gosh, it's time to go to the beach. I'm not kidding. It's not a 1 hour a week anymore. You have to sit down, ask God to give you, to give you discernment, wisdom, but also give you the time to figure out what's important to you, and then you're all in. Get involved with Moms for Liberty, and every single one of these groups here. Massey, you're going to hear him at the end. Bill Feder. Get knowledge, because knowledge is power. And remember, ignorance is the one commodity. It's the most expensive commodity we have. Gosh, I don't know. There's so many things I could say, but just follow us on womenimpactingthenation.org. We are going to start a Win Talk Radio, and actually Massey's wife Carrie is part of our. There's four of us. I have 3 co-hosts, and it's going to be awesome. It's Win Talk Radio, and our tagline is Talk Truth and Take Action. That's all we're going to do is take action, because remember, when we show up, we win. So God bless you. Amen.
I love her words of wisdom, and she tells it like it is. So I'm taking notes, and I'll share all the notes at the end on the summary of this event. So our next speaker is Kathy Chamberlain. She's also known as the author of Rules for Deplorables, a take from Rules for Radicals, right? She's an author, activist, highly sought-after speaker, talk show producer, and on-air talent of Voice of a Nation for America Out Loud Talk Radio. Kathy's been spreading the message in her best-selling book, Rules for Deplorables, a primer for fighting radical socialism for the last 2.5 years. She's actually on a Florida Deplorable book tour, and we are really, really fortunate and honored to have her here. Her book is a counter to Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. His 13 tactics are being used by the left to transform American values and culture to socialism. Kathy says it's time to play hardball. Rules for Deplorables is undoubtedly one of the most important books for the future of our country. Please welcome Kathy Chamberlain.
Thank you so much. Darlene, thank you for everything you've done to put this very important event together. Most of the speakers here today will be speaking about God and the Bible. And the fundamental founding principles that put our great nation together 275 years ago. I'm going to be talking about the exact opposite. I want to talk about the Bible of the left. Rules for Radicals. How many people are familiar with this book? How many people have actually read it? Did everybody notice that? This truly is the Bible of the left. Saul Alinsky wrote this book back in 1971. He dedicated it to Lucifer. That should give every one of us an idea of what's inside this book. Hillary Clinton wrote her thesis on the man Saul Alinsky. Did you know that? Obama learned everything he did, everything he knew about community organizing, because this guy is known as the father of community organizing. He, along with another couple, really set the stage for what we're seeing today. And that couple is Richard Cloward and Frances Fox Pippen. Anybody heard of them? This is so critical to put together, folks, because known in short as Cloward Pippen, they started writing a series of strategy papers back in the 60s. And every single one of their strategy papers was designed to fundamentally transform our country, basically to socialism. That's really where Obama kind of got his whole idea to do that. But Cloward Pippen started with a strategy paper in 1966 called The Weight of the Poor, a strategy for ending all poverty. Anybody in here not want to end poverty? It seems so obvious, doesn't it? And yet, what their whole concept really centered around was to overwhelm our systems, to overwhelm, in that strategy paper, our welfare systems in such a way that it would implode that system. It would bring welfare to its knees. And by doing that, the hope was to institute a national income annually. Sound familiar? This was their plan all along. So I like to say that Cloward Pippen wrote the blueprint for transforming our country to really communism. But Saul Alinsky wrote the tactics, which are the vehicles by which we get there. Let me share a quick tactic with you. One of the most well-known ones, tactic number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Just out of curiosity, do we have any homophobes in the house? How about sexists? Come on, somebody's gone with that. How about xenophobes? How about my favorite, deplorables? I thank Hillary every day for the title of my book. So basically, what I wrote in Rules for Deplorables is a counter to the Bible of the left. And I took every single one of the tactics that Alinsky wrote in his book, and I counter it. I start off one chapter with each tactic, and I use current events in a way to make them really understandable. It's so simple, it's so easy, once we understand the tactics by which they play the game. Now, I have over 400 footnotes in my book, so you will not get bored, trust me. and it recently hit number 14 on Amazon's top 25. Thank you, I thought that was good too until they started censoring me. Now if you try to buy more than one book, a sign pops up and says, no, this particular author only allows you to buy one of her books. Wow. Seriously. That's how bad it's getting. Now, these days I've been talking a lot in my Florida Deplorable book tour, that's what I call it, about tactic number 13. This is incredibly important because the left is using it every single day right now against us. Tactic number 13 is pick a target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. We have to understand this one more than ever. Who's the target today? Anyone want to take a guess? Who? We are. Patriots. Christians. Do you know that on January 27, 2021, 7 days after the ill Presidente, which is what I like to call him. I like the sound of Ill and Jill. His DHS came out with a bulletin, and you know who it targeted? Anybody in here ever vote for Donald J. Trump? I know that's a stupid question. Like this. Okay, homegrown violent extremists. That's what we are now. HVEs for short. This is frightening, folks. If you ever complained about the CCP virus, election fraud, or voted for Donald J. Trump, you are now on the DHS and FBI hit list as a terrorist. We live in frightening days. Today I'm going to target somebody. I'm going to use Alinsky's tactic number 13, and by the way, just so you understand, they target, they freeze, that means they keep them in the headlights in the news so that you really get the picture that, for example, patriots are the terrorists, okay? They freeze us. And then they personalize us by calling us all sorts of names, the homophobes, the white supremacists, the conspiracy theorists, you know, we've all been called those. And then they polarize us. That's the tactic. If they call me a conspiracy theorist, they want you to say, I won't even mention her name again because I'll be targeted next. Well, I'm going to do the targeting. And this is what I'm going around talking about all the time now. I'm targeting rhinos.
Yes.
I am done with them, and we should all be. We have a major problem today within the Republican Party. And you know where it's based from? Election integrity. Do you know that the RNC here in Florida, actually I take it back, the RNC nationally, Republican National Party, right? It is their objective right now to totally ignore what happened on 3 November. Instead, they're focused on what? Registering new Republican voters, as though we can't chew gum and walk at the same time. I've heard so many leaders in the Republican Party talk about, no, Kathy, you can't mention that there was fraud in 2020. I refuse to shut up. Out at a delegation, a legislative delegation I live in Pinellas, and we just had all the legislators come by our little county, and I called him out. I did my little 2-minute speech in front of them. Already, then I'm not making any friends. Did a good job. So yeah, they don't want us to investigate the fraud, folks. I say that's a win for Democrats. If we can't investigate the fraud. Because what I say to the leaders every single time I run into them is, you can get 5 and they'll get 500,001. Every time. They're trying to shut us up. I just wrote an article last week called Rhinos and America Firsters Battle It Out for Control of the GOP. That's where we're at. We're at a line in the sand right now. And we have got to stand strong, because you don't want to leave the Republican Party. You want to take it over. Take it back. How can we do that? Folks, there is so much we can do. Number one, back Representative Anthony Sabatini. He's the one making the relentless calls for audits in our state. Right? I talked to him on the phone on my way over here. You know what I asked him? How's the basement? He was apparently, his office was moved to the basement in Tallahassee. You call your representatives and ask them to move him back where he belongs, at the top. Now, I've done something about it in my own county. I'm the leader of election integrity. How many in here have heard of Defend Florida? Awesome. I'm the ambassador for Florida of the entire state. Please come back and talk to me about Defend Florida. This, to me, is our only chance of winning back county to state. Defend Florida is a grassroots total organization that is not another club. We don't need another club. Your clubs are doing just fine. We need an umbrella that joins all the clubs together so we can speak with one united voice. You can join the cause, by the way, just by texting the number 474747. Oh, shoot. Back that up. Erase that. I saw you writing it down. The word defend to 474747. So what do we do in election integrity under Defend Florida? I have canvassers, 50 of them, right now, as we're all sitting here, and every single Saturday for the last 3 months, going door to door. No, they're not knocking on doors. Much better than that. We have a data team in Central Florida that works with Seth Keschel, Jovan Pulitzer, and Bobby Pippen. Our data guys, you can give them a hand. Let me wait for that. And we are following the lead of Maricopa County. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. They've been helping us tremendously. We are going from county to county to county in Florida. We have spread now to about 20 of the 67 counties. Folks, you would be so excited to hear what we've accomplished in 3 months. I can tell you right now, in my little county of Pinellas, and that's St. Petersburg, thank you. Come talk to me afterwards, okay? We have discovered, even though President Trump supposedly lost our county by 1,200 votes. That's it. Guess what? We've discovered that the voters on the rolls that have not voted in 15 years somehow voted for Trump. 32,000 of them. We're hitting pay dirt. Every time our canvassers go out, they come back in a better mood than they've been out. Why? Because they're so excited. They found so many vacant lots, gas stations that supposedly have 10 people in them, right? Our goal is to get 5,000 affidavits within a month. We just reached 2,000. And the more we can get, the more we can support somebody like Anthony Sabatini. So help us, folks, please. Sign up at my booth where you will be redirected back to your county. Your county needs you desperately, and so do we. Here's the last thing I want you to think about doing. Vote for candidates like Darlene Swaffer for Congress. She's the real deal. She's the America First patriot we all need. She's a true constitutionalist and will fight for our First and Second Amendments, which we are losing, folks. And as I was writing my speech for today, I emailed her and I said, would she support an audit for our great state of Florida and support Sabatini's efforts? Here's what she said. Absolutely, 1,000%. We need a forensic audit here in Florida. Darlene needs your help. Please donate to her campaign while you're here today and spread the word. And let's start getting rid of the rhinos. You can catch me on The Voice of a Nation, on America Out Loud Talk Radio, and find my weekly articles too. Please support voices like ours, everybody who's talking here today. We need you. We've been kicked off just about everything. So our message can end here in this room today, or it can continue spreading. We're in war for the survival of our country. There's no second chance. Edmund Burke said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for what? Help us. Please show up at my table and sign up as a canvasser. Thank you. Thank you.
Isn't she awesome? Love Kathy Chamberlain. And so much passion. She is a warrior, and I'm so grateful that she's here. Our next speaker, I'm gonna reserve what I really think about this speaker until after his presentation, because I don't want to distract you. Okay? Darren Gobb is a proud fourth-generation Montanan who enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1991 and was assigned to the United States Army Presidential Honor Guard in Fort Myers. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. It's going on its own thing. Okay, apologies. Ghosts.
It's a ghost. Exactly. And he graduated from Montana State University in 1998 and began a career as an Army aviation officer. He spent 1 year in South Korea, 1 deployment in North Africa, and 4 deployments in Afghanistan. This is a tough man. Tough, strong American man. And 1 deployment in Central and Eastern Europe. He retired in August of 2019 out of Fort Carson, Colorado, and returned home. Upon retirement, he became the Montana State Coordinator for all Army military funeral honors. He's been married for 27 years and has 2 adult children. Darren is active in conservative grassroots efforts across the country. He's the Executive Director for Restore Liberty and serves as the Lewis and Clark County Republican Central Committee Chairman and lives in Helena, Montana. I'm so proud to have Darren Gobb from Restore Liberty here with us today. Come on, Darren.
Step on my toes, thank you. I'll just lift this one up. Thanks so much for having me in Florida. I'll tell you one thing, when you're coming from 5,000 feet down to sea level, you have to quickly get used to humidity. I don't think it'll ever happen as I head back tomorrow, and I'm probably going to run out of oxygen back in Montana again, but it's already over. Yeah. I guess what happens often is that you take off from a place like Helena, Montana, you can pretty much glide into Florida. As I'm buried in the mountains of the western side, the average altitude is 5,000 to 5,500 feet, and then you go up. I'm surrounded by water on all sides, strangely enough, and you can, 15 minutes from where I'm at, you can be in the mountains on a dirt bike, on a snowmobile, on a jet ski. It is wonderful. We are flyover country, and we love it, and we encourage people to drive around as well, and we just broke 1 million people in population. It's pretty amazing. I wanted to introduce you to something called Restore Liberty. She said I retired 2 years ago. My intention as a Montanan was 3 things after retiring from the military. 1, never to leave the boundaries of Montana. Failure number 1. Number 2 was to never be in charge of a large organization again. Failure number 2. And 3 was to never build a PowerPoint slide presentation for the rest of my life. Failure number 3. Now that we've established that I'm a complete failure, I can continue to go from there. So we started building this thing called Restore Liberty, and if you've got a phone or a tablet or whatever you have on you, just go ahead and type in there restoreliberty.org. And you'll find that our website is there. We've got a great combination of people as we continue forward. Fortunately, since we all know what technology is, it can help you or hurt you, bring your presentation with you while they figure it out down there. But the bottom line is, I don't think it's any mystery to anybody in here that the U.S. Constitution is a contract between 2 parties, the people of this nation and a government whose powers we grant to them at our will, at our consent. And so that makes the federal government in breach of, and one of you is wrong. It's not us. We like to highlight the fact that the U.S. government is a breach of contract. How many people are familiar with the 9th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution? Okay? A couple people. I'll read it to you. The enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Our nation is constantly highlighting the fact that it's people at the top, then states, and then the federal government. We flip that. The federal government thinks it's the boss of the states and you. Often the states act the same way and say they're the boss of you and can tell you what to do. And the entire nation is in fact built on consent. We the people are supposed to be governed at our consent. They're supposed to be our agents working to do the things that we need them to do for the benefit of all Americans. Instead, they're working against the majority of Americans right now in all of the things that you see. How about the 10th Amendment? Everybody familiar with that one too? Way back there, that's right, I knew he would be. Yeah. 10th Amendment says the powers of the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved for the states respectively or to the people. Okay? There are about 7 powers in our Constitution that are federal powers that are granted to them. Everything else belongs to the states and the people in a federalist society. We've got massive federal government overreach. If you're seeing that on your phone or tablet, that's it. Okay? And you'll see this again a couple times. I want to make sure you're looking at the right thing. That's the breach of contract. That's your 9th Amendment. That's your 10th Amendment. So, Restore Liberty is a nationwide, grassroots-led organization of volunteers who are dedicated to making sure that this thing is highlighted at all levels. Started building this over a year and a half ago, prior to the election. Building leadership in place, and when we got to 25 states of state directors, we went public and started going out and doing things like this and getting people involved. We do not have any intention whatsoever to try to come to an organization and make it us. We want to pull alongside organizations in states and counties and wherever they may be and create that united front across the country. And it's working because we've got, last I checked, about 35 states with state directors already. And I'll show you that map up here shortly, then I'll introduce some folks in the room that are involved already. So you can see that it's not just a slide in front of you, there are people involved. And it's an incredible network of people at the same time. Okay, here's the problem though. On the top left, we know we have to come together. If we can't come together, we're never going to succeed in this country and overcome what we have to do. How do you rally and unite people who love independence and liberty? We just don't collectivize well. You don't see us coming together and burning down Minneapolis and things like that. It's not our nature. We like our freedom and liberty and nobody telling us what to do. That's why it talks about shows fractured up here. We really are. And I love all the different groups that are out there. But how do we come together under a common vision and work forward together rather than competing? Well, we've got some things that we think are going to help with that. But first of all, we have to acknowledge that this guy in the top right is a knight in shining armor, and that person is not coming to save you. Only you can do that. Okay? Don't worry about whether or not we think someone's going to come back into office based on some massive military plan on the 20th of any month or whatever day of the month. It's not going to happen. And if it does, okay, great. Does that mean that we as grassroots activists across the nation can suddenly stop doing what we're doing? We can't. We absolutely cannot. In fact, we have to step it up even more because there's a lot of work to be done and there's a lot of ways in this room to do it. Same thing on the bottom right. You cannot put a person on a pedestal and expect them to come save you, be infallible, be perfect, and everything's going to be fine. In fact, take that person off the pedestal and stick to principles. Constitutional principles. And I don't care who that is. I consider myself in second place at all times. Everybody in my organization considers themselves to be second place at all times with the good Lord in front. And if we're not following Him, we're failing. So we're going to do that. But what do you put out there? You've got to rally around something, right? You can't just say, that's a good idea, go home for early or flag, sit on the couch and complain. It's, I promise you, ineffective. So we decided that we're just going to stick back to the principles of liberty and those things that are defined in our Constitution, as our founding fathers so eloquently wrote, and keep that up there. Just because a principle is out there and we fail to meet it doesn't mean the principle isn't worth pursuing. Our founding fathers were failed men. They had their problems. We know what they are. Our history is covered in ugly as well as it is in the glorious. We have to acknowledge both sides. So let's focus on the principle and measure towards that, even if we don't always be better. How do you do that? Well, that's always the hard question. Well, what do you do? On our table over here is a thing called the Practical Tacticals. And the Practical Tacticals is a front and back sheet of paper that gives you some ideas about things you can actually do rather than just complain. And if you're looking at this from the perspective of, man, this is a huge national problem, how do I, as a random average American citizen, get at that huge problem? Well, don't try to do the whole thing. Pick one. Find 3 or 4 friends and get out there and do that. For example, one of the things on here is what we call school co-ops. There's a lot of parents pulling their kids out of school these days, and we started a couple of these in my small town of Helen, Montana. They call themselves a city, but we have 30,000 people. In Montana, that's pretty good. But they pulled out some of their kids from school. They've come together, they've pooled their money, they've hired their own teacher. My wife's a teacher. She had to quit her job because she can't wear a mask because she teaches autistic spectrum kids. Whatever it takes. Holding the city commission accountable, doing research, doing the county commission research and holding them accountable. There's a lot of different things on there you can do. Is it exhaustive? No, maybe not. But it's a place to start, and you can download that on our website, by the way. If you look at that website on the left-hand side down there, it says Practical Tacticals, and you can do the same thing on a drop-down menu on a phone. Download it real quick, share it with people. If you come up with other ideas, let us know. You know, we're not trying to be the single exhaustive source of every good idea in the world, that's for sure, but this is a great place at least to start. We handed out 300 of these in Denver a week ago, and then we had to double it and hand out more. And the thing is, it's pretty simple, but it's a lot of hard work. So we got to be able to do that. So we have a 4-pillar thing I'll work through very quickly here. On the left, you'll see the Declaration of Constitutional Consent. That's on our website. I'll highlight where to click on that as well. We look at constitutional sanctuaries and counties, and we're working alongside of people like Sheriff Mack. And if you've heard of Bards FM, we're not competing. If these things are successful, we don't care who does it. We're just trying to make sure that we can follow through and show America it's probably going to look like an election map. Who's really on an island in this country? We're not divided but they want us to look like it. We're going to show them that it's not the case. We'll show you what kind of candidates we're going after and why. And civics education is critical to everybody. First one is this Declaration of Constitutional Consent on the left-hand side. You can click on it there. And right here, it's a 5-page document a friend and I wrote up in Montana. He's actually serving in the Border Patrol right now for as long as he can. And it has an introduction. You can see the outline there. A little bit of history and enumerate the colonists with the king. And we're writing these grievances to King George. This is a modern-day version of that, not intended to replace any of those founding documents, but to actually magnify them and reinforce them through modern issues, which, by the way, don't look a whole lot different than they did then. All big governments are the same way, and we've got to stop that. I'll give you a few examples real quick. Fundamental safeguards to a free people, enumerated in the First and Second Amendments to the Constitution, have been continuously and systematically infringed upon, and you can read the rest. Anybody disagree with that? It seems pretty clear. There are 17 of them. I'm not reading them all. Trust me. Principles of freedom and liberty are no longer the vanguard of the government. It seems like they want to control every single aspect of our lives, and they're using your tax dollars to tell you how to live your life. Sometimes we just have to say no, and if it costs us extra, it's worth it.
Amen.
Yes.
Okay? It's if we're not careful, none of our dollars are going to matter at all or mean anything.
That's right.
The third one, the 10th Amendment. Just ignoring the federalist system, trying to act like your boss, your king, your supervisor, whatever you want to call it, and telling you what to do with no recourse. Justice for J6 rally happened in D.C. at 12 o'clock Eastern today, right? Have they received justice? Clearly not. In our system, that's not how it works. So the 10th Amendment, getting back to that, is critical to our organization. This is what we have. We're going to be tracking these constitutional sanctuaries and states. 10th Amendment, and this is the entire Constitution, by the way, not Second Amendment only, not First Amendment only. It's, the whole thing matters as originally written and originally intended. So when a declaration or some sort of document to change the color of that county or that state and say these are the ones that are doing it. Sheriff Mack was successful in 2 counties in Nevada. We love it. We don't care who gets the credit. Let's just make sure we're tracking it and make sure it happens. in Texas. And I'll promise you over the next 30 to 45 days or so, there's going to be a lot of things coming out of some states that you're going to love. The network I'm involved in with folks now, directly and indirectly, is extremely busy and doing wonderful things. So just remember that I'll promise you there's good news coming. We're also involved in election integrity on the edge, but there's a lot of things there you can talk about forever. We got 5 minutes, and that's all I need. Okay? This is where we're focused. How many people have gotten the ballot and knew every judge and every school board candidate and everything they stood for? If you didn't, our organization's going to find out. And we're going to identify, vet, and endorse those candidates nationwide and make sure that constitutional candidates are there, because we're tired of this guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's good, probably. We're going to try to remove his influence and make him go away as best as we can. The Taliban tried to kill me multiple times. I'm not afraid of him. Friedrich Bossier, if you like him, this is one of my favorite quotes. We cannot monopolize education in government schools. They're your schools, your kids, your right to educate as you see fit. One of my favorite quotes. Okay, statewide leaders, in my last couple minutes here, you can see what all the states where we have directors involved. For the state of Florida, Bethany right here. Regional Director Denise over here at the table. Tyler from the state of Alabama next to her. If you're looking for success, Tyler and his crew were the first ones in the nation to get the Anti-Defamation League contract removed from their school. Ask them how to do it. It's not about donkeys and horses. You've heard it here before. It's tyranny versus freedom. Reagan was right. We have to defend it. Every generation. This is the last one. Please help us restore liberty, because if we're going to go after someone like and school unions, not the teachers, the unions, and the false things that they teach in their schools, we're going to need a lot of help. If you're financially able and this is something you think you want to get involved in, you've seen the face of the reality of the organization. There's 40 more folks involved like what you see in this room. Please jump on board and help us. Go online and sign that declaration, and we'll keep you up to date with what we're doing. So that's Restore Liberty. We're over here. I'm not selling you anything except for hard work and liberty. Okay? Thank you.